Hey everybody, you found the Hillbilly Voodoo channel. We're back at it on our old fart drift cart here. On last show we got the frame done, we got our rear axle in place, we got our front axle in place, wheels and everything on it. Guess the frame's not really done, it's just kind of tacked together. I've plopped the engine up there and a seat up there to give me an idea of where things are going, and nothing's mounted yet, it's just hanging there. In the last episode, you probably remember, if you've were watching, is that I don't have a clutch for this engine, and I'm not going to buy nothing because this project is more or less going to be a free project. So we got a belt pulley sheave on there, so we're going to make some type of belt pulley sheave for back here and a belt tensioner that when we tension it up, it's going to grab and we're going to go. That's the idea. And if that doesn't work, well, then we're going to have to create some type of clutch idea. And if that doesn't work, well, then who knows what we're going to do. Anyways, let's go wander around out in the piles of ground obtainium and see what we can find to build a pulley for back here, some type of tensioner to grab onto the belt and push the belt, and yeah, see where we go from there. Now here's some of the stuff I ended up finding. There's a bunch of old lawnmower pulleys. I think that one's off of a rototiller. That'll be a good maybe tensioner pulley, or these pulleys might make good tensioner pulleys of some type. We got a variety of them here. So that's a start there. I don't know what we're going to use. And then I found a brake assembly out of a smart car. Yeah, a smart car. Bet you never seen a 350-pound vanilla gorilla driving a smart car, have you? Well, yeah, I used to drive one. So, anyways, I think I'm going to make a pulley out of the brake drum part. That'll go on the axle, and then we're going to mount the actual brake assembly part in there somewhere fixed, so that this will spin around, power the axle, and we can use the brake part to stop the axle. Does that sound like a good idea? All the parts here were damn near new when I took the car off the road. So it's all still free and working. I don't know if I'm going to use the master or the slave cylinder to push the brakes, or if I'll use the cable for the e-brake part. I haven't figured that out. That's something for future and to decide, but see if we can make this work. If it works, it'll kill two birds with one stone. We'll have brakes and we'll have a pulley. And if it doesn't work, well, then we can go on to another plan. So, what are we going to have to do to make this work? Well, it's pretty close to the size of the wheel, so it will give me a pretty low gearing, which is kind of sort of what I want, because I want to be able to get the tires to spin, and I'm a pretty big dude, and this is a pretty small engine, so we'll have a high or a low gearing. Should cause it to grab and spin fairly easy. But this drum is really thin, so I can't really machine a groove in there for a pulley. So I'm probably going to have to wrap a piece of metal around here, weld it to the drum, and then machine a groove into it. Does that sound like a good idea? Maybe two pieces wrapped around, machine a groove. Yeah, I guess if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, well, we can start all over again and try something else. The hub hole here is probably just about big enough to go over this axle. We're obviously going to have to build some type of hub flange or whatever, just like we did for the wheel, to hold this so that this will spin and this will drive the axle, and yeah, you guys all know where I'm going with this, but until I actually do it and kind of show you how it's done or show you what I'm doing, it might not make a little bit of sense or might not make any sense at all, but it will when we put it together. So let's stop yapping. Let's find some metal and build this up and see if we can actually machine this into a brake drum into a pulley. Yeah, that's more or less what we're doing. Brake drum into a pulley. Yeah, that totally made sense. So here's what I ended up doing here. You'll have to excuse the seriously hideous welds because my welder was kind of acting up, but I've put one single layer of 3/16 steel down on the drum, welded it down. Then I took two separate pieces of 3/16, welded that around that. So now I'm going to stick this in the lathe and try to machine a belt groove in here. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but we're going to try it anyways. Maybe we'll clean all those goobery welds up too in the process, but first we're going to try to get that groove machined in there so we can use this as an actual pulley. The issue that I'm having today is we have a rogue bear running around here and it seems to want to try to eat my animals. So I got to keep one eye on them and one eye on my machining work, and hopefully nothing catastrophic is going to happen here. So let's get to some machining and hopefully we don't have to fight a bear in the process. Kind of looks like we ended up here with a pulley. Got a good groove in there. The belt doesn't quite sit all the way down level, but it's pretty close, so should be good enough that it doesn't slide out. So what do we call this? Is this a pulley clutch or a pulley brake or a brake drum pulley, or I don't know. Make up a name for it, put it in the comments. I don't think we really invented anything here. We just kind of made do with what we had, but we're gonna have to build a hub now that will bolt into that and fit on to that axle. So I'm gonna have to go wander around and see if I can find some more pipe, maybe some more like that stuff there, or I don't know. I'll have to figure out what I got laying around here, and I'll bring you back after we build a hub, and then we'll have to figure out how to mount that brake part right there so that it stops this brake pulley belt, whatever we're going to call it. Okay, so see you in a bit. I got our little hub thingy built there and our brake pulley drum, whatever the hell we're calling that thing, mounted on there. I haven't welded the little hub together yet. It's just kind of pressed together, and I haven't quite decided if this is going to be our final go with this or if we're going to try something else. But in the meantime, I ended up having a catastrophic incident with our brakes that we were going to use, and like a dumbass I dropped it on the floor and the bonded shoes kind of just exploded off the side. So that's not going to work for us anymore. Yeah, well, it kind of shoots the whole easy idea of mounting that in there all to hell. So what my next plan here is, no, we don't have plans. We have ideas. Plans are what other people screw up for you. Anyways, my next idea here is I got another brake shoe. I have no idea what that was off of. It's got a fair amount of meat left on it, and it's riveted on there so that when I drop it on the ground, it's not going to fall off. So my idea here is to build some type of pivot, jam that in there on some type of pivot, and then have the lever for the brakes just force it back like that to the inside of the drum. It's not like we've got 1,000,000 horsepower and we're going 1,000,000 miles an hour here. So I'm gonna chop this down, well, probably in half, make it reasonable. And it doesn't quite have the same curve as that drum because that drum's really small and this brake shoe is really big. So here's what I'm thinking here. We're gonna chop it off, probably about the middle. And we're gonna chop it off there. We're gonna put a pivot right there, like some type of bolt or pivot or whatever we're gonna do. And it's gonna pivot on that, and that's gonna jam up against the drum. Is it gonna work? Well, I guess we're gonna find out. If it doesn't work, then we're gonna have to find a different plan. But I'm pretty sure this is gonna work. I think when I was young, I had a go-kart that had something pretty similar to this idea. And like I say, we're not going 1,000,000 miles an hour, and we're sliding around and pretty much crashing into shit anyway. So do we even really need brakes? Well, yeah, we kind of need brakes to initiate some skids. So well, let's figure out if we can modify this enough to get it in there, and if we can build some type of pivot to make it jam up against the drum. So this is what I ended up coming up with here. So that old brake shoe, I welded a pivot on there, just a bushing of some type, and I narrowed down that brake shoe because it was really, really large and it didn't need to be that wide for inside that drum. Now I've put a pivot here for that to go on like that, and the drum goes over like that. See how that's working like that? And that shoe will be pushed up against there with some sort of rod going that way, connected to a Johnny bar, a handle, whatever you want to call it. So that'll be the brake. Now, as some astute viewers will probably notice, there's no brake material on there anymore. Well, in order to bend that and shape it, I had to take the brake lining material off of there. So I'll have to drill some holes and re-rivet that shoe back on, which is not really a big deal. I think I might cut segments, just little square blocks, and put them on there. Don't think I need a full-length shoe, and well, maybe if I do, I could. It's probably the same width as the shoes that fell off of that smart car brake, so maybe I'll use the full width of the shoe off the smart. No, I'll just use little segments and rivet them back on. That'll be easier. So I've already taken the shoe off, so that's going to be our brake, I guess. I guess it's how you know when you're getting old, when you're figuring out how you're going to stop before you even get going. I remember a time when brakes were kind of like the last thought as I was rolling down the driveway and trying to figure out how I was going to stop before it hit in the tree. But I guess wisdom is coming with age, and I'm figuring out how I'm going to stop before I even get the motor on the thing. So anyways, let's put a motor on this and see if we can actually get it to go forward and not worry about the stopping part. Gone and mounted our motor up there. I just found a random chunk of plate that was out there. I don't really know what it was off of. It's just wide enough and long enough to make a motor plate out of. Got the motor kind of sort of bolted on there. Got one bolt there and one bolt opposing just to hold it in place. And put our belt on there. Now I got to figure out our tensioner. So my idea is you fire the motor up, the belt's going to be loose and it's not going to go forward. We're going to have this tensioner on here, and that's going to jam up like that, tighten the belt up, and it's going to go forward. It'll be like a clutch. hopefully we can build a clutch pedal and maybe do some clutch kicks and stuff with this thing, and it'll be more like an actual real drift car than a drift cart. But yeah, if we can figure out how to get that to work, then we should be golden. And if not, well, then I guess we're gonna have to figure something else out. I'm not 100% sure about the size of that pulley. It's the one that is currently on the motor, and if it's too big, too fast, we can always turn it down. And I'm pretty sure it's not going to be too small, because it's almost, well, it's probably about a quarter the size of the driven pulley. So yeah, we'll figure out that gear ratio stuff later if we have to, but we'll build this adjuster here, or I guess it's a slack adjuster, clutch, whatever it's going to be. We'll build it to a point where we can still move the axle back and take up some tension if we have to put a smaller pulley on, and we'll build this thingy so that it can take up some tension if we have to put a smaller pulley. But we don't even know if this idea is going to work yet, so let's we'll cut a piece maybe of angle iron to go across here with a pivot, a hole drilled in it, and a pivot so that we can do that. Might have to modify this bar here a bit so that, yeah, so when we step on the pedal it pulls it like that, so it's off, and we'll put a spring on it so we release the pedal, it'll go like that, and it'll almost be like a real clutch type thing. So let's go wander around and look in the piles of ground obtainium and see what we can find for angle iron and maybe some pivot type stuff. So this is what I ended up coming up with our belt tensioner clutch idea here. We got our tensioner mounted in there. Lever goes down the back, through the bottom. I have a spring pulling up on it, so it's tensioned up like that. I'd have it adjusted loose right now because the axle's not tightened up, but spring pulls up on it, it's engaged. You pull back on the lever, it's disengaged, so the belt will run just like it's out of gear. As soon as you let off the pedal, the clutch, the spring's pulling back up on it, it's back into gear. Hopefully this is going to work. I'm sure it's going to do some squealing and some smoking, but we have almost no friction on the rear wheels with what we're going to put over the tires for slides, then it should work. Maybe we'll be able to rev her up and do some mad clutch kicks and stuff, but it's yet to be seen because we don't know if the motor works yet, because this motor was so in one of the piles of ground obtainium. I wouldn't have kept it around in one piece if it didn't work, so it should work again. We might have to do a little bit of hillbilly voodoo to get her back together. So I think our next step here is to build some type of hoops that go over the top of the motor so that I can put a seat on here, and then I can decide exactly where the pedals for this clutch type mechanism thing is going to be, and where the gas pedal is going to be, and where the seat or where the steering needs to be. So hopefully this belt drive contraption thingy will work here. And if not, then we'll have to come up with a different idea. Got us built a framework and mount for the seat. Found this stuff. Well, I didn't really find it. It's what's left over from the hand trucks that I got the wheels off of. Just kind of bent it into a chair type shape and stuck our tractor seat up there. Kind of looks like it should be a good thing, good height. Tightened up a whole bunch of bolts. And for those of you that are wondering about the Rogue Bear, I've got a really good story for you. 4 o'clock this morning, our motion sensors went off and the lights came on out by the barn. So I go running out to the barn like some kind of crazy villager with my pitchfork, waiting to kill Frankenstein's monster, and I see the bear. The bear is licking the fence post, moaning like he's getting paid, and rubbing his ass on the electric fence. Every time the electric fence zapped, he'd make out this little squeal and then dig back into the fence post. I'm like, what the hell is going on in this neighborhood? So even the bears are starting to act like they're on drugs. So anyways, I watched him for a little bit, and after the 15 minutes or so of him rubbing his ass on the fence, he finally busted through it and broke the fence. So I guess the bear S&M was over with, because there was no more zappy and he wasn't interested anymore, and he just turned around and buggered off, and haven't really seen him since. So that's an update on the bear. I think I'm going to drag this thing off these sawhorses here now, sit on it, and decide where I'm going to put the steering wheel. So if you're liking this content, you should probably subscribe, and then you won't have to sit around wandering through your recommendeds trying to find something to watch. And once you subscribe, then you can check out the whole channel and maybe sit there and binge watch some of the other projects and stuff that I have going on. Keep you entertained for a little while, and well, you won't have to work very hard at poking that little button and trying to find something on your recommendeds to watch. So I think I'm going to leave this video here and drag this thing off of here and do some measuring and stuff, and in the next video we'll get some steering going and some pedals action and all that other stuff. So until next time, use what you got to make what you want. Do some hillbilly voodoo of your own.